Do you want to speak Chinese faster and start forming your own sentences today? In this lesson, we're going to learn the most important HSK1 verbs and show you exactly how to use them to build simple, natural sentences instantly. By the end of this video, you'll be able to create sentences on your own, communicate in basic conversations, and sound much more confident when speaking Mandarin. Imagine being able to say things like, I eat rice, I study Chinese, or he reads a book all on your own. That's exactly what we're going to practice today, and you'll see how simple and flexible Mandarin grammar really is. Let's start with a sneak peek. Here are a few sentences you will learn how to form. 我吃米饭，我学中文，他看书。These are the foundation of almost every conversation you'll have as a beginner. Don't worry, by the end of this lesson, you'll not only be able to say them, but also understand and combine them to make your own sentences. Now, as we begin Lesson 6, HSK1 Verbs and Sentence Building, I want you to know exactly what you're going to achieve. By the end of this session, you'll be able to combine subjects, verbs, and objects to create meaningful sentences. You'll know the core verbs used in everyday conversation and how to place them naturally. This lesson is all about giving you tools to speak, not just memorize words. Before we jump into the verbs, let's quickly warm up by reviewing some key phrases from Lesson 5. Repeat these out loud with me. 你好，谢谢，对不起，没关系，我想要这个。Great. Keep practicing these phrases daily. They are the foundation of every conversation and will help you feel confident as we add verbs today. Now, let's talk about verbs. A verb in Chinese is an action word, just like in English. But here's the good news. Mandarin verbs do not change according to tense or subject. That means you don't have to worry about conjugation. Whether it's I eat, he eats, or we eat, the verb 吃 stays the same. This makes forming sentences much easier than many other languages. Today, we'll focus on 6 essential verbs that will appear constantly in your conversations. 吃, which means to eat, 学, which means to study, 去, which means to go, 看, which means to watch or to read, 喜欢, which means to like, and 做, which means to do or to make. These verbs are the backbone of almost every beginner sentence you'll create. Let's start with basic subject plus verb plus object sentences. This is the simplest sentence structure in Mandarin, and it's very flexible. First example, 我吃米饭. Repeat it out loud. 我吃米饭. This means I eat rice. Notice how the word order is exactly like in English. Subject first, then verb, then object. Next, 我学中文. Repeat, 我学中文. This means I study Chinese. You can change the object to anything you like. For example, 我学英语 or 我学数学. See how easy it is to swap objects and still use the same structure? Finally, 他看书. Repeat, 他看书. This means he reads a book. Again, you can replace the object. 他看电视, which means he watches TV. After practicing these sentences, you can already start making your own combinations using the verbs and objects you know. Mini practice time. I will say a sentence in English and you repeat it in Mandarin. I eat noodles. 我吃面条. I study math. 我学数学. She reads a magazine. 她看杂志. The more you repeat, the faster your brain links the meaning to the Chinese words. Don't rush. Focus on pronunciation and clarity. Next, let's add time elements to your sentences, which will make your speech sound more natural. In Mandarin, time usually comes at the beginning of the sentence. For example, 今天我学习, which means today I study. Repeat. 今天我学习。明天你去工作 meaning tomorrow you go to work. Repeat. 明天你去工作。现在我吃饭 meaning right now I eat. Repeat. 现在我吃饭。By placing time at the start, your sentences immediately feel like real-life conversation rather than just textbook phrases. Try swapping times. 明天我学中文。今天他看书。Practice makes perfect. Next, let's include locations to your sentences. Using 在 to indicate where something happens is simple. 我在学校学习 means I study at school. Repeat. 我在学校学习。你在家工作 means you work at home. Repeat. 你在家工作。我在这里等你 means I'm waiting for you here. Repeat. 我在这里等你。Combining subject, verb, object, time, and location gives your sentences structure that feels real and natural. Finally, we can use verbs with frequency words to describe habits. For example, 我常常看书 meaning I often read books. 他有时候去学校 meaning he sometimes goes to school. 我很少吃面条 meaning I rarely eat noodles. Frequency words like 常常, 有时候, and 很少 make your sentences more expressive and closer to native speech. Repeat each sentence out loud and try changing the subject or object to fit your own situation. By the end of this lesson, you should be comfortable forming subject plus verb plus object sentences, adding your own sentences confidently. Now that you've learnt the basic subject, verb, object sentences, it's time to make your speech more natural by adding time elements. In Mandarin, the placement of time usually comes at the beginning of the sentence. This is simple, but it completely changes the meaning and flow of your sentence. For example, 今天我学习. Repeat after me. 今天我学习. This means today I study. You see, 今天 tells us when the action happens, and the sentence structure stays simple. Subject, verb, object. By starting with time, your sentences already sound more like real-life conversation. Next, let's try another example. 明天你去工作. Repeat. 明天你去工作. This means tomorrow you go to work. Notice how the word 明天 gives the listener immediate context. You already know when the action is happening. Using these time words consistently helps your sentences become precise and natural. Now try 现在我吃饭. Repeat. 现在我吃饭. It means I'm eating now. Here, 现在 makes your sentence immediate and relevant to the current moment. Try creating a few examples yourself. What will you do today? Can you say 今天我看书 or 明天我去学校? Repeat them aloud. Practicing these will train your brain to think in Mandarin word order naturally. After mastering time placement, the next step is learning location sentences. In Mandarin, the word 在 is used to indicate where an action happens, like at or in. For example, 我在学校学习. Repeat. 我在学校学习. This means I study at school. Notice the structure. Subject plus 在 plus location plus verb. This simple formula can be used in many situations. You can replace 学校 with any place you like. For example, 我在家学习 means I study at home, and 我在图书馆学习 means I study in the library. Let's try a few more examples. 你在家工作. Repeat, 你在家工作. This means you work at home. 我在这里等你. Repeat, 我在这里等你. It means I'm waiting for you here. Practicing these sentences helps you describe actions with both location and purpose, making your speech more complete. Once you feel comfortable, try creating your own examples. Where do you usually study, work, or spend your time? Repeat those sentences aloud in Mandarin. The more you practice, the faster your brain will link subject, location, and action naturally. Now let's add another layer to your sentences, frequency words. In Mandarin, words like 常常, 有时候, and 很少 tell us how often an action happens. For example, 我常常看书. Repeat, 我常常看书. It means I often read books. 常常 shows regularity. You can use it with almost any verb. Next example, 他有时候去学校. Repeat, 他有时候去学校. It means he sometimes goes to school. Notice how 有时候 communicates a less frequent or irregular action. And finally, 我很少吃面条. Repeat, 我很少吃面条. It means I rarely eat noodles. Using these words helps your sentences sound more natural and gives them depth. Practice time. Say these sentences aloud multiple times. Try changing the subject or object. For example, 我常常喝茶. 他有时候看电影. 我很少玩游戏. You can even mix time, location, and frequency. For example, 今天我常常在图书馆学习. Repeat, 今天我常常在图书馆学习. Now you're forming more complex sentences without overthinking. Keep repeating these sentences until they feel natural. The next step is learning how to turn your sentences into questions. In Mandarin, yes-no questions are very simple. You just add the particle ma at the end of a statement. For example, 你喜欢吃米饭吗? Repeat, 你喜欢吃米饭吗? It means, do you like to eat rice? Notice how the sentence before ma is exactly the same as the statement. You don't need to change the word order or add extra words. Another example, 他去学校吗? Repeat, 他去学校吗? It means, is he going to school? One more, 你学中文吗? Repeat, 你学中文吗? It means, do you study Chinese? Now, practice answering these questions naturally. For 你喜欢吃米饭吗? You can answer 我喜欢 or 我不喜欢. For 他去学校吗? You can say 他去 or 他不去. For 你学中文吗? Answer 我学 or 我不学. Practicing both questions and answers will help your conversations feel real and interactive. Let's combine what we've learned so far. Start with a simple time phrase, 今天. Add a subject, 我. Add a verb and object, 学中文. Finally, form it into a question by adding 吗. 今天.
By practicing time plus subject plus verb, location plus verb, verbs with frequency words, and yes-no questions, you are now building a toolkit to speak complete sentences in Mandarin confidently. Repeat each pattern, create new examples, and gradually combine them to form small conversations. Remember, consistency is key. Every day you practice, your sentences will sound smoother and you'll feel more natural speaking Mandarin. Now that you've practiced individual sentences, it's time to bring everything together into many conversations. Using the verbs, time words, locations, and question structures we've learned, you can start forming dialogues just like native speakers do. Let's try a simple conversation. I'll say the first line and you repeat it aloud. Ready? 你今天吃什么? Repeat. 你今天吃什么? This means, what are you eating today? The answer could be, 我吃面条. Repeat. 我吃面条. Now imagine you want to ask your friend about their routine. 你去学校吗? Repeat. 你去学校吗? The answer could be, 我去学校. Repeat. 我去学校. Already you're combining time, subject, verb, and object into real communication. Try changing the objects or time words. For example, 你今天学什么? 我学中文. Or, 你明天去哪里? 我去图书馆. Every time you create a small variation, you strengthen your ability to form natural sentences in real situations. Next, we move into a rapid-fire speak-along session. I will say 15 to 20 sentences one by one, and you repeat each sentence immediately. Speak confidently and clearly. Let's begin. 我吃米饭. Repeat. 我吃米饭. 我学中文. Repeat. 我学中文. 他去学校吗? Repeat. 他去学校吗? 我喜欢喝茶. Repeat. 我喜欢喝茶. 今天我在家学习. Repeat. 今天我在家学习. 你常常看书吗? Repeat. 你常常看书吗? 我很少吃面条. Repeat. 我很少吃面条. 他现在去图书馆. Repeat. 他现在去图书馆. 你明天去哪里? Repeat. 你明天去哪里? 我想看电视. Repeat. 我想看电视. 你喜欢吃水果吗? Repeat. 你喜欢吃水果吗? 我在学校吃午饭. Repeat. 我在学校吃午饭. 你喜欢学中文吗? Repeat. 你喜欢学中文吗? 我常常听音乐. Repeat. 我常常听音乐. 你现在学习吗? Repeat. 你现在学习吗? The goal is to respond instantly. Don't overthink. Just say it out loud. This builds fluency and confidence for real conversations. Finally, let's wrap up today's lesson. You've learned how to use HSK1 verbs in sentences with time, location, frequency, and yes-no questions. You can now form many conversations and respond naturally. For practice, write 3 sentences using the verbs from today's lesson in the comments, and I'll help you correct them. Don't forget to repeat everything aloud daily to improve memory and pronunciation. Next lesson, Lesson 7, will focus on essential